to be talking here a little bit about PBL and STEM at the middle school. And this is brought to you by BIE, the Buck Institute in Education. It's a nonprofit out in California. I would like to talk to them as one of the world leaders in project-based learning. I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana. If you don't know where Fort Wayne is, it's just north of Indianapolis, about 100 miles north, and there's a little picture of my city. I do work with STEM, I work with PBL, and I still work with a school system. And I head up the one-to-one and digital curriculum in the schools just outside of Fort Wayne, and those are a couple other the places that I do some things at, as you see me out on my back deck, kind of enjoying when there was sun in Indiana. Great to be with you. I want to let you know that most of the things that you see tonight are going to be at that 21centuryedtech.wordpress.com. And then also the whole presentation will be archived within a week here at BIE. We've already done a little bit of sharing about where we're at, and so that's kind of taken care of out of there. A little bit of what I've worked with in the middle schools, integrated solutions block. I came up with a program, and that was kind of combining all the subjects together and integrating with all those things you see there, and touched every kid in the school as far as some of that type of stuff. Currently do the one-to-one laptop program. And if you want to share a little bit about your PBL STEM experience, it kind of helps me as I go along. If you just want to put a quick thing in the chat room, it kind of helps us out, gets us to know each other and what's happening there. So I'd love to see that. I want to talk about a great equation, and that equation is STEM plus middle schoolers plus PBL. And when you put that all together, you get a balanced equation, and it promotes relevance and authentic learning. And today's driving question is, how can we promote and implement STEM and PBL-based programs in the middle school? Well, let's take a look at this. And we have some needs to know, and our first need to know is going to be, well, what is STEM? And I'm going to go over this quick because I think most of you already know, but you see, before STEM, you had these separate components, like 4 different tiers, and they were opened by teachers for their students at different times. And of course, you had science, and you had technology, and you had engineering and math, and they were all taught separately. Well, isn't it a more interesting picture when you can see them all at once? You see, the power of STEM is it creates this whole new connected, authentic product. So what is PBL? Well, what makes up PBL is the 8 essential elements. And I want to talk a little bit about how those 8 essential elements are connected with STEM. You see, first of all, you have the significant content, and that balances the science, the technology, which are the net standards, all of you ISTE people out there, the engineering and the math. And you get all of these subjects that go together, and through that, we end up with the content. And remember, PBL is all about content. Well, you also have 21st century skills, and you have to bring the 4 C's. And when I say 4 C's, of course, I'm talking about the critical thinking, the collaboration, the communication, and the creativity, and bring it into the real world. And you see, PBL provides that foundation, and STEM is so important in the 21st century skills. Along with this, another essential element is the in-depth inquiry. And STEM fields allow us to ask convergent and divergent questions that allow kids to kind of go up that pyramid of learning. And PBL promotes it, so does STEM. And it really is key to our future. Of course, we also have driving questions, and the driving question engages students in relevance. And I want to talk a little bit about driving questions here, just to give you a little bit of idea in case, I'm not sure how familiar you are with PBL, but they're open-ended and they launch inquiry. So they're also aligned with the learning goals. And they are kid-friendly. A lot of times we use essential questions, and they're really the standards stated in a question. And it might look like this. Here's an essential question. How can we use measurement skills and knowledge of geometry to plan a park? Well, a driving question would just be, how can we plan a good park for our community? An essential question, you can see there, about NASA scientists. But we could rephrase that, and we could just say, write a proposal that recommends which planet we should be explored next. You see, driving questions actually uncover the curriculum rather than restating the curriculum. Can we program a robot to do something? And here's my last one. Describe a typical food chain for the herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores in the deciduous forest biome. This is a typical middle school essential question. I'm going to keep on going, and I'm going to share you my answer on what a driving question could be. If you want to share what you think might be one of yours, feel free to go ahead and put it in the chat window, and I'll show you what I came up with in about 5 minutes. We'll go through this, but this is an essential question, and think about driving questions on that. Need to know. The driving question helps formulate what the need to know is. It uncovers the content, and it gets students asking questions in their own way. It allows students to uncover and open the standards because they're curious about it, and it answers the question, why are we doing this today? Voice and choice. STEM allows for diversity in learning opportunities, and it allows kids to choose what they might study and how to do it. And voice and choice, as we go through that, allows engagement. It provides individual and group decisions, and it gives real-world opportunities. You see, PBL can connect, and it brings the STEM disciplines together. Revision and reflection. And STEM disciplines are dependent on these type of metacognitive activities. You see, STEM is building and rebuilding, which is revision and reflection. It's like a smell of a crayon. It creates this need to scribble and to try new things. It allows you to format and remix, which is all about PBL, but also all about STEM. And it allows kids to tinker. And isn't tinkering what revision and reflection is all about? The last of the essential elements is, of course, public audience. Student demonstrations are an essential element in STEM. We've all seen it as far as science fairs and stuff like that. So what we do is we bring it beyond the refrigerator. We go beyond the teacher resource desk. We go beyond the bulletin board. And we actually go beyond the teacher grade book. You see, that audience should be throughout the school. It should be throughout the local community, and it should be throughout the country and the world. And we're going to talk about some avenues on how that can happen as we go on in today's presentation. You see, public audience, I believe, is the difference in rigor, motivation, and engagement with kids. Oh, my answer. Remember I told you I'd come back with that essential question? Well, my answer is, can we write a restaurant storybook menu for animals that live in the forest? It's going to answer all those questions. And I'm not saying that's the right driving question for it. It was just mine, okay? We're going to keep on going here, and we're going to talk about why middle school. Why do we want to think about the middle school fit? Well, John Dewey said, give the pupil something to do, not something to learn. And the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results. I love that quote. And if you have any thoughts on that or any other quotes, feel free to share those in the chat. Love to see what you're thinking as far as that. You see, the middle school setup is just perfect because it's not always just departments, but a lot of times in middle school, kids are on teams. And the physical setup of the classrooms and the buildings can even be somewhat set up for PBL and STEM. And the content, a lot of times with middle schoolers, is based on exploration. And the time is often flexible for them and for the teachers. And career planning, and I see this so many times because I also work with high schools. And so many times kids find out they're interested in something by the time they're in high school that they weren't ready for because their course selection was wrong way back starting in middle school. Alignment is made between classes and academic class planning in the middle school. And kids at the middle school are excited about inquiry, possibilities, exploration, and taking risk. If you've ever been a middle school teacher, you know what I'm talking about as far as that. They seek to connectivity and authenticity in a real world. Middle school kids like real things. And making a journey from concrete to abstract is where they're at. When you see that growth from 6th to 8th grade, you really can begin to see that. And they are discovering that social world, which is important to them, while at the same time, they're trying to seek some independence. They need movement. They need formative experiences. It's important to their growth and development. And they need to go beyond the old test to the Common Core, which is so important today. The teachers are trained in multi-content, which is important at the middle school. They know how to balance that elementary to high school thought. There really is a connection for PBL STEM and the middle school. It all makes so much sense as we go back to John Dewey's quote there. So, this is what a lot of you came for. How about some of the ideas and resources? And I know you want to know about some of those. And so I'm going to give you some ideas to reflect on how to promote STEM in your school, and then I'm going to go through some resources that'll help you out as far as that. First of all, gain more understanding of both STEM and PBL. And I'll guarantee you, if you read my blog, and I'm going to give you that again later, I give you a lot of STEM ideas and some things to reflect on STEM. If you want to know more about PBL, then get to BIE.org. They have got great information for you. You have to start learning that science and math provide the what and the why. And engineering and technology actually have the apply and the how. And as we look in the new science standards, we'll really see this apply and how start to really come out and grow even more. How well are you teaching the what and why? I have a feeling pretty good. How well are you assessing the what and why? I have a feeling, again, pretty good. That's what standardized tests a lot of times are all about. But now the question for your school is start going around, look through classrooms, ask kids, how about the apply and the how? How well are you assessing the apply and the how? And the reason I bring this up is because I think PBL helps teach that application and the how. It gives the kids that ownership. So it's just kind of something to think about as you go through on that. Take slow and methodical steps. Small steps. You don't have to do it all at once. The power of one. Just start with one project. Maybe combine one class, or don't even combine a class. Have science just be aware of some math standards and help promote one of those standards in a lesson. Okay? Think about your time periods, your teachers, your units of studies. Look for commonality. That is so important. The common core, the common plan time, the common time. Something cool to replicate. There might be schools that have a lot of things. In fact, I'm going to show you something. Here's one of my first resources. You want to replicate? Go to BIE.org and take a look at their project search. As you get into the project search, you will notice that there are science standards. There are social studies activities. And when you click on one, I just clicked on science here, and I go to physics, and I click again, I find out all of these projects. Here's a bridge project. Here's extreme sports. I have a feeling that's about eggs. Love that play on word. But look at it. Math and science together, we have a natural STEM combination. Math and science together, and some people will say to me, yeah, but I also see English and arts. Well, first of all, arts are important because the arts can bring the innovation. A lot of times people call it the STEAM. How about the English? Isn't that what the new literacy standards are all about in the Common Core of getting kids to write about science, read nonfiction, all these types of things? So you will find some natural STEM projects, and you can see some of them that I found here right at BIE that would be perfect for middle school. Another area is the West Virginia Department of Education. And don't worry about these links. You can come back and watch this again. And also, I'm going to show you where I'm going to be putting all these links in the next couple weeks so you can get back to them too. But the West Virginia Department of Education actually has laid out projects here in project-based learning. And you can see I'm in science and physical science, and I can see all the different things they have. And I can go into one of their projects, and I can see that they really have done it very similar to what BIE puts out, the entry event, the project idea, all of these types of things, the thinking and reasoning skills, the 21st century skills, of course, performance objectives. Notice the driving question there, assessment and reflections, and to map the project out, and all the different resources. This is all available from West Virginia. Learning reviews is another one of my favorites. And when you go to learning reviews, you can pick actually project language arts, and they have social studies, but there are science and math project ideas. And we can see that they're connected to all these different agencies. Like if you look at cases online, there's 24 projects for grades 6 through 12. Okay, there's the Jason project, there's My Science box, which has almost 19 projects there. So it's another good one to really take a look at, and I'm just showing you some of the things you will see as you go into there, whether it be science, algebra, technology. How about extracurricular? I guarantee you your middle school is doing something great after school for kids that have to do with STEM. Well, how about spinning that and bring it into the curriculum? Chances are you're covering those curriculum objectives. So think about what you might be doing already. Let me show you some other things in competitions that you might be interested in. Google Science Fair has a completely online science fair. You might want to take a look at that. The first Lego League, which I'm sure a lot of you are aware of, and again, don't worry about these actual URLs. They'll be for you there later. You'll be able to get to all this stuff. The first Tech Challenge has some great ideas, and this is also in robotics. PBS Kid Stream. You will find some excellent STEM challenges there, and I've got the link right to the STEM challenges. The National Video Game Challenge, actually gaming, and it's a STEM challenge that you might be interested in. And when you go to competitions, don't feel you have to compete, even though that's a great thing, but it might be just some pieces you use to scaffold your actual PBL STEM project. Here's the Microsoft Imagine Cup, or the Dupont challenge, where they ask you to look at some things, whether it be feeding, the energy, protecting, innovation, and that's all through Dupont. VERIZON, I really love this. This is one that I think could be really new and upcoming, but it's an app challenge. It challenges kids to make apps for cell phones, which I think is just a great idea. And so, some kids might be interested in this. How about biomimicry? You talk about putting engineering and science together. And when I tell people this, again, don't feel like you have to enter the competition, but you could get some really good scaffolding ideas. Math Counts has some really good things, which I'm sure some of you are doing already, but you might want to bring it into your curriculum. There's something called the Young Inventor Competition. Okay, and Young Inventors has a complete program that can help you if you're into inventing, things like that. Got Game, this is another game challenge. Okay, they have a middle school division and a senior division. The National Science Bowl has some really good stuff, and as you look at that, there's a high school division and there's a middle school division, and that's through the U.S. Department of Energy. The Young Scientist Challenge has some really good things for you through 3M, which I know that you will just really like as far as that. I have used this one, National Engineers Week, Future City. And what Future City does is you actually use the game Sim City to create a city and then solve a possible problem of the future. Very cool. And a lot of hands-on kinesthetic activities, and also that ability to use SimCity and bring it into the curriculum. The Siemens Science Challenge has an elementary, a middle, and a high school division. And when I go to Siemens, I actually will use, they have little simulations in there, things that I can use even if I'm not in the competition. In fact, let me show you one of them here. I just went into their overview page, and we go to middle school, and I find these virtual labs. And you can use these virtual labs anytime. So don't sit there and feel like you have to just do it at certain times or whatever, but these are always on there for you. Notice that there's lesson plans, there's videos. All of this is absolutely free. I love the Kids Science Challenge. Take a look at those. Sports on Mars, detective science, bio-inspired design. So a lot of good things as far as that, and you can see some of the other ones I pulled from Kids Science Challenge. There's the Young Scientist Challenge, another great, a lot of great stuff with teacher tools, lesson plans, interactives. You can see I put a little more of theirs on. Number 7, make time, collaborate, negotiate, align, experiment. This is so important, but you have to have time for teachers to do all of these types of things. You have to also put time in your schedule and create plans that integrate. They facilitate the journey as you create these plans, and keep that in mind. Number 9, involve the entire education community, whether it be parents, schools, businesses, government, higher ed, industry. One of the things, the more you can take your local community, the more engaging it is to kids, because their local community is real to them. So keep that in mind. Engage yourself and others. Become passionate. Become enthusiastic. Have some excitement, some diligence, and some commitment. So keep those things in mind. Now, the last half of this, we've got about 15 to 20 minutes left. I just want to share some resources. And again, I'm going to tell you how you can get to these. You're going to be able to get to the archive, which you were given a link, I think, there in the chat window. We'll probably end up throwing that chat window up there again and giving you that link. But let me show you some of the resources that are out there on the web. I just showed you basically what I call mostly competitions and challenges, but there's a lot of other things out there. If you already have a project, you can use these resources to create a scaffolded piece, okay? You see, web resources can provide product ideas within your actual project, within the scaffold, and they can provide that needed lesson. And I'm showing you right now the best piece of paper I think BIE has ever produced, and that's the Project Teaching and Learning Guide. You might be familiar with it. You start with what the project is, you decide what skills kids need, and then you decide what lessons you're going to provide. And this is a great download. If you can't find it or you don't want to wait for us to distribute this webinar, go to that link or go to BIE.org, go to freebies, and you'll find it right under that. So let me talk a little bit about, I don't know if there's any people who have used, and if you've ever used any of these things, let me know in that chat window. Tell me what you've got, anything like that, and read, write, think. People will tell me in science, what do you mean read, write, think? That's all for language arts. Well, how about this cube creator? The kids actually make an interactive cube that they then print off, turn into a cube. It could be a biography on a scientist, it could be a mystery in science, or you can even have them create their own cubes. And this is a free app from Read, Write, Think. Here's one of my favorite ones, Read, Write, Think's trading cards. It's a mobile app, it's even available for the iPad, and you can go in there and you can make trading cards, maybe famous scientists, maybe different birds, maybe trees, maybe chemicals, elements, anything you want to do, and they can make trading cards for that. Another one that I like is Odyssey of the Mind. You'll have all different types of activities and problems that kids can solve. NASA just came out with this site about 2 months ago. It's called Wavelength. There must be about 2,000 to 3,000 STEM activities in NASA Wavelength. If you've never gone there before, get there, take a look at what they want, because let me just show you a couple things. Here's something, you talk about kinesthetic activity. That's one of the names of one of their activities. Isn't that middle school? PBS Learning Media is just changing their whole front, and they've come out with now what they're calling Learning Media, and PBS Learning Media has thousands of videos and lesson plans, and I've just shown you a couple here, water conservation, and I've got some things on making a city farm. All of these are units, videos, lessons, all for free from PBS. ePals I love. They've got some great things on how to use and connect with kids across the world, and you can select and search any subject, find different types of pals. I'm going to show you one of their projects they have here. I love this because the name of the project is Water, Water Everywhere. It's through National Geographic. Take a look at that. There's a driving question. When is water good to drink? And look at all the standards that it uncovers, which is just excellent. Take a look at that. These are all the student needs to know when they were to ask this. Of course, you have the kids come up with these, but it's great to give an idea of how a driving question relates to student needs to knows. iEarn, who also works quite closely with BIE, has some great things. When you go to iEarn, this is another one of these worldwide project type things, and they've got like 2 million students, 40,000 educators all across the world. And when you go there, you go to their collaborative piece, their collaborative center, which I've got on the screen there right there, and you can find projects. Pulse of the Planet has some great podcasts for you that you can load on to iPads, you can put on iPhones or just regular phones, and they're 2-minute little demonstrations. And take a look. I've just shown a couple of the programs if you were into the oil spill that happened in the Gulf. These are all just 2-minute longs, and you can build and scaffold activities. Discovery Ed has the Siemens Academy, and you will find webinars, blogs. There were times where they actually were broadcasting from Churchill, watching the polar bear. And you will also find things where you can learn how to do different things through some of their webinars. In fact, they have some great webinars coming up this week. But here is some of the webinars that I just thought I'd show. Let's say you want to learn how to use Google SketchUp, all these types of things. Teach Engineering is another one. Some great stuff for you and some great resources. Discover Engineering actually lets you design a roller coaster or do something with some skateboard, which middle schoolers are all about. You'll find video activities, engineering items. Design Squad Nation, I really like. This is from PBS. And one of the reasons I like this is they encourage kids to blog in the STEM area. You talk about making the Common Core standards literacy with science education. We want our kids blogging, and if they could blog in a STEM type atmosphere, that's even the better, because now they can start explaining what they need to know. You can see some of the things in Design Squad Nation as far as their activities. They have different animations for kids to watch to help explain. If you want to go into blogging, one of the safest sites out there to use, because it's all teacher moderated, is a site called Kid Blog. Absolutely free. And I really strongly suggest Kid Blog for people who want to get started with blogging, because it's really easy to create a class and to get everything put together. One for easy website development is Weebly. It's absolutely free. And again, it is an education division, so you can actually put your classroom on, have kids create websites, and this can all be part of their project. The Khan Academy, I don't have to say too much about. That's one of the things I'm going to be talking with Tech and Learning next week, and we're going to be talking about ways to flip the classroom. And I don't like to call it flipping the classroom. I like to call it flipping learning, because there is a difference. WGBH, Teacher's Domain, has some great things from PBS, whether it be from Nature, Nova, Frontline, Cyberchase. EGFI, if there is a site, if you're into STEM education and you have not discovered EGFI, you need to. And when you go there, click that little area that says For Teachers right here. And when you click that For Teachers, you will get a multitude of engineering, whether it be career type things, what engineers are thinking next. Here's our careers. Or you will just find a bunch of lesson plans. And take a look at this. Lesson plans, class activities, K-12 outreach programs. All these things that you can scaffold the learning for kids with. Their newsletter, sign up for their newsletter. It is the best newsletter out there, I believe, on STEM education, especially for the middle grades. And you will, here's a look at some of the lessons they have. Science Net Links is another one that I think is one that people don't use enough, but there's a lot of great things on Science Net Links. I'm going to show you one thing. This is taken Richard Preston books, The Wild Trees, but take a look at this. This is a PBL unit. It talks about the purpose, the content, the motivation, and it's all spelled out for kids, and it's relating literacy again with science and STEM, which I think is an excellent idea. That shows you how to assess, extensions, where to use it. But these are all things that you can look at as you start getting into Science Net Links. If you like music, Dr. Lodge McCammon has some great things on music-based teaching using science and math and putting it to music. And you can see some of the songs he's put together, and kids can listen to these, and you can make videos out of these. Here's one that we call Atomic Brother. I'm not going to play it right now, but you can see the verses, all the things that Lodge has on that. MIT K-12 Video. Go to MIT K-12 Video and tell them you want a certain video made. They have their students then make videos for middle school and high school or even elementary kids. And educators get started by clicking here, and they create an assignment that they want an MIT student to use. Well, the MIT student logs in, they find one, and if they make a good video and MIT puts it on their site, then that college student gets a stipend paid for them, and you get a really cool video made. Here's some of the videos that they have on MIT K-12 Video right now. And these are all done in just simple, understand terms that kids really can get. Some of you have heard of STEAM. Well, that's putting the arts in STEM. The Kennedy Center is probably one of the best for putting the arts in STEM. And when you go to Arts Edge at the Kennedy Center, you can actually look for these lessons. And here are lessons that all have to do with the different areas of study, but they tie art into it. Sensory haiku on the oceans. Okay, percussion instruments and pitch. These are things that kids just love to do and will make a lot of sense to them. Here's planets in balance, arts in space, all of that. Art Institute has some great things for you, and you might want to visit their site out of Chicago. Okay, here's the phenomena of light, and they talk about this, and this is through the Art Institute. Out there in California, the Exploratorium out in San Francisco has some excellent things that relate art to the sciences. So you might want to take a look at that. We've got just a few minutes left. Let me hit a little bit of software for you. SketchUp is a program to use, and SketchUp doesn't always have to be just designing a building. I've used it for measurement, engineering, geometry, innovation, design, all these types of things. In fact, here's an example of what my kids have done with it when I was in the classroom. Here we're making avatars for video games. Or how about different types of transportation? And kids love to create. How about something innovative? These were all created by kids in one of my classes. If you've never used the West Point Bridge Project, it's a free download from West Point Institute, and it is wonderful, and it really teaches some concepts of math and physics. You may want to take a look at this. And if you look at the bridge, that truck's getting ready to go over it. Well, depending on how they built it, we'll see if the truck makes it or not. And along the way, they discover some different types of compression, tension, how physics applies to bridge work. Scratch from MIT is a great computerized program for kids to learn computer programming, but also math and science all together, because it lets kids imagine. It allows them to program and test and go through sequential thinking, and it allows them to share in a collaborative community. I've got a free webinar for you that you can go to. I've got the address to it for here. And again, when you run this back through, if you get that address down, I sit down and I show you how you can get started with Scratch just within 45 minutes. So it's something you might want to be aware of. Google Earth and Maps has some great things using Google Earth. There is an actual site that will tell you how to get started, has all different types of lessons for you that middle schoolers love. Here's two of them that I pulled out that you might be interested in. And let me go through just a couple quick little Web 2.0 tools. Problem Solver, what's your problem? And it actually shows you step by step how you might want to solve it. Very cool thing. And this is a quick, easy Web 2.0 tool to use. Diffin actually allows you to compare any two items. And it allows kids to compare, and then you ask them, what do you see? What's the computer doing when it's comparing them? There's critical thinking puzzles. Okay, it's one that kids can always use. The differentiator allows you to help to construct questions. And again, all of these will be available to you. So ideas to reflect on promoting STEM. Well, think about it, and think about promoting STEM and PBL in the middle school. You see, today's driving question was, how can we promote and implement STEM and PBL-based programs in middle school? And I think it's just really important. So where can I find more material? Well, first of all, remember that equation. STEM plus middle schoolers plus PBL is a great equation. It's a balanced equation. It promotes relevant and authentic learning. PBL can be what drives STEM. It allows for STEM to focus on driving questions that uncover. The power of STEM and PBL, it creates a whole connected and authentic product for middle school students. It's time for you to really take STEM and PBL for a drive. And I hope I've given you some of these things, but remember what John Dewey said. Method means that arrangement of subject matter which makes it most effective in use. Never is method something outside of the material. It's another Dewey quote I love when it comes to STEM. Something to think about. I want to let you know that I am starting a series right now, and if you go to 21centuryedtech.wordpress.com, right there in front of you, I just started a series at this blog. This is my blog, And part 1 is called Connecting It All, a STEM PBL Common Core series and a gold mine of resources. And this is going to be a 5-step article that I'm going to be putting out in the next 2 weeks. If you go here, you will learn about the connections. You will also see all the links to the resources plus more that I talked about tonight as you go through this whole series. Part 2 is going to actually talk about the middle school experience with STEM and some of the things I covered tonight. So I tried to give it to you also in a written explanation by creating this 5-part series. You can also go back, and I'm sure that if we put in the up in the chat room, if we can have somebody over there at BIE put in where to get to this webinar, because you can watch this again and make sure if you miss some of the links or you want to go through, stop it, write down some of the links, you're more than welcome to do that. Well, right now, I was just wondering if there's any questions, any thoughts, ideas, anything anybody wants to say before. I told you we were going to try to keep this right around 35, 40 minutes, and I promised you that. I hope it is a lot of good information for you, some information you can use. And it's been a real treat being on here with you. Please, I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the chat room any feedback, any types of ideas you have. Tracy says she loves the comic creator. Oh, that is often. That is awesome, and that's on Read, Write, Think also. Some really good stuff for you. Patrick, 7th grade science teacher in New Jersey. I just had a really good time working with a lot of New Jersey teachers doing some webinars up in there. So Patrick, thanks for being with us today. Mary, the shout out back to you. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Just really enjoyed